Now we will call to order the Brandon Board of Selectmen. Do we have a moment? What's that? Select Board, I'm sorry.
I'll get you there, Tracy.
Now you got me all confused.
Now I don't know why it's like
Yeah. Can we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I will make that motion.
We have a second, any place?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Any changes? None being heard? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the Select Board minutes.
I've got one correction.
Okay.
There was a typo in Heather's name in the agenda adoption motion.
Oh, thank you. Was that just a test after?
Yes.
I had a T
Heather
rather than an S.
Oh, okay.
I move to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstained? Ayes have it. Town Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of the public. I did submit my report in advance, and I have nothing really to add to it, but I thought I might highlight a couple of things from the report, if that's all right. I know you have a heavy discussion later. I just wanted to highlight that Jackie at the town office has been working really hard on payment plans with taxpayers who are trying to clear arrearages, and that since the last select board meeting, $70,000 in delinquent property taxes, water and wastewater has been collected, and a number of additional payment plans have been entered into. We did spend a significant amount of time today, I spent a significant amount of time today working on the closing of the parking lot grant, and that's been submitted, and hope that that's in order, and we will find out shortly that we're in good shape. And then otherwise, the thing I guess I would highlight is just to make sure that you're aware that the McConnell Road Structures grant is going to be held off for us till next application cycle for reasons outlined in my report. And additionally, I did speak with Brian Sanderson about it, and they, in addition to the application itself, there is like a ranking that each town has from year to year. It changes based basically on how often you've availed yourself of the structures grant or the paving grant or this or that. And so Brian did let us know that Brandon was at number 21 on the list for structures grants, and that they funded only 17 structures grant applications this cycle anyway. So there's a couple of reasons that we'll be looking to reapply for that next go around.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any questions from the board on the report? Any from the public here?
Could we make a comment?
Absolutely.
As a former board member and as a Brandon resident, it's really nice to see that parking lot out back now finally finished. Clearly it was a lot of years ago when we went to the voters to ask them to allow us to buy that and give us the money to buy that. And a lot of questions, and it's taken a long time to have it get to the totally finished stage, but it really looks nice. And so I'm really happy to see it and see it in use and great downtown parking.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was on Arnold District Road yesterday and was surprised that the paving still hasn't been done. What's the status update on that?
The road's not ready for the paving, so the town crew has continued to do some ditch work. They've done the road rebuilding in the sections that need to be rebuilt. When the flooding happened in July, they suspended work on rebuilding the roadbed and concentrated on some flood response, and they've returned to it, and the road paving company has been in communication with the highway foreman, and it's expected that the paving will happen in October, the second week, third week of October.
Thank you.
Anything else for town manager? If not, we'll move on to the art director's report.
Thank you, Chair. My report for September 22nd, 2023. Planning for winter basketball basketball has begun. Attended 2 meetings last week to work with regional partners around aligning goals, best practices, and even more in the way of collaboration with Pittsburgh Rec and Otter Valley. Speaking of collaboration, we're working with those same partners to create the inaugural Otter Jamboree as an end-of-the-year tournament for our youth soccer kids in grades 3 through 6 to be held on October 22nd at Pittsburgh Rec. Thank you in advance to Arturo Mendiola for providing frame construction for the Leaf People. Thanks, Bernie, for that name. That are a feature of the Harvest Fest, October 8th at Estabrook. Big thank you to sponsors McGee, CDJR, and Pocket Pest Control for underwriting the soccer jersey purchases for grades for the U10 girls and boys teams. Volleyball is back. Let's pick up volleyball Wednesdays at Otter Valley North Campus from 6:30 to 8:30. Commissioner Amber Lee will be helping people ages 16 to 99 serve up some fall and winter activity. Fall trivia starts on October 1st at 6:30 at Center Street Bar. This popular free adult event is a multi-year collaboration with the Brandon Free Public Library. That is my report.
Thank you. Any questions for our rec director from the board? Any from public? None being heard, we'll move on to public comment and participation. We are going to limit the time on our public comment to 5 minutes on each item, just because we've got a lengthy discussion going on later on in the evening. But I will open that public comment up to the board first. If anybody from the board? Anybody from the public?
Public comment about any particular item?
Any particular item that's not on the board. And just for the audience's participation, when we get down to the ARPA discussion, there will be no public discussion on the ARPA discussion because we've had ample time throughout the past,
2 years.
what's that?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Now it's our chance as a board to figure out what we're going to do with that. So just for anybody that's here for ARPA purposes, if you have an ARPA question or anything, it should be asked as of now in public comment.
Well, we'd like to make some comments.
Okay. All right. Please,
All right.
the floor is yours.
Well, thanks. I know it's very late in the game. I know it's not too late to take part. I'm Frank Briscoe. I own the old high school that we've been trying to redevelop. It's been vacant for over 35 years now. We've had several times we've come close to being able to have a breakthrough and get some momentum. At this time, we have $188,000 in state tax credits for historic preservation and for code upgrades that are available to us. If you're familiar with the program, it's a reimbursement. We've identified $71,000 that we think we've got a good shot at getting. The deadline for us to use them is July 26th. So we have come tonight to ask for $40,000 of ARPA funds to help us capture those $71,000 in state credits, which include facade improvements and code upgrades, including ADA, making the building accessible and meeting the code requirements that we have to do to make the building safe for occupancy. If we got that $40,000, we will pledge to have the building open for occupancy, what we've described as a phase 1 in 2024. People ask us all the time, what's going to happen with the school? And it's a resource that just is begging to be reconnected to the town. And so, although I know it's late, a lot of things have come together for us lately. The building will be, if there are any questions, I've been working with Jeff Jardozzi about the program for the building, but we are committed to having half of it as community-oriented space and half for living. That we're not seeking any subsidized housing, but we are going to make it. Our goal is to make it available for young couples, young people who want to stay in Brandon and have not many other options.
Frank, may I interject here? I'm Jeff Jardozzi. Here's a summary, just with details and facts on there. One of the most important parts of this is that we're undertaking, forming a community-based nonprofit organization that is taking control of the building. Its mission is to bring that building online within the next 5 years. The founding organization, the founding members of this community all are from around Brandon, in Brandon, and a little bit beyond. We're all highly skilled and experienced professionals in the built environment, architects, designers, builders, trade workers, craft workers. We're volunteering a huge amount of our time to get the first phase of this project done, which is to transform the facade of the building, to get a small part of the main level occupiable for public service, as well as to use our own office as we continue building our organizational capacity. We have plans for the building. We have strategy for doing it. We want to begin work. The 40K ask plugs a hole in our budget, basically, to fund the material requirements. We have raised pretty much all the volunteer labor, to do this. That's what it's about. We'll be presenting on the 11th to the DRB, a more formal presentation as to what we're doing, the use and occupancy of the building, what our mission and our goals are for the space, its role in the community.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from Dan, or from the board first?
I guess I have a question. So part of our initial criteria for the ARPA money was trying to do the greatest good for the greatest number. So I wonder if you might highlight what you perceive as the public benefit that would come from your work.
The public benefit is, for one, the Brandon High School is a remarkable architectural achievement. Building requires a unique approach. To put that back into, to a large part, 50% of the building is devoted to public service. The mission of the organization is focused on developing affordable and sustainable housing that is intrinsically affordable. So that's what I've been doing my whole professional life, is an approach to building homes for people at a price that they generally can afford. In other parts of the world, it's called self-built housing, things like that. But the building itself, we see it as being a very multi-purpose building. What we need to do there will only consume a part of that space, both in time and floor space. So having space, event space, community space, where if Wade wants to do his Aikido class and he needs space to do it, or teenagers want to hang out and play music one night, or somebody comes in and they want a house designed and they don't have the resources to afford professional architect, those are the kind of services we provide. Screenings, art gallery, we see having in fellow residences, short-term housing for visiting scholars and things like that, and working the cultural landscape in Vermont. Basically seeing a large part of that building, providing a live-work cultural hub for Brandon and for people around.
Thanks.
Anybody else on the board?
Yeah, I have a question on the co-housing. Is the model you're using the kind of with central kitchen and community space and
Yep.
then individual living?
Yes.
Okay.
How about, like financial sustainability moving forward? Is this something that the board would need to, that the town would need to continue to support? Or is this kind of a?
Oh, no, our particular financial model is that, ultimately we're looking to build build the building out in such a way that it supports itself by virtue of its revenue streams. Both, the housing is largely rental-based, but would be operated by a cooperative housing group. And then the activities that the organization is engaged in the building has a lot of different segments of its revenue stream projections. So, ultimately, we don't want to be relying on the town, for handouts, grants. So, but at this early stage, this is sort of this important critical seed stage. Obviously, the building's been sitting vacant for a very long time, and it's not for lack of desire. The economics of that building are very difficult because it's a very unique building. Any conventional approach would not be able to capture that unique quality to it. So our approach has been to do something with the building to preserve not only its historic and social role, but its aesthetic qualities, and to make it available to the community to use, and participate in. Anyone in the town will be able to walk through those front doors any day that it's open, to participate in any of the activities, or just to sit there and go through the resource library, or look at art hanging on the wall, or just see what people are doing.
Anything else, anybody else from the board? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bill?
I just want to comment, I met with this group 3 weeks ago, and they had introduced this idea, talking about what I really found interesting and intriguing was the idea of teaching people to build their own homes. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a marketable idea. And if there was any question about whether or not Mr. Briscoe was community-minded folks, he has donated use of the space. He owns most, if not all, of the dog park that we use, and he's made that available to the public for free as a sort of an evidence of the fact that he's community-minded.
All right, thank you. Anybody else on anything from public comment? Bill?
Yes, I have something.
Just a minute.
Go ahead, go there.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, what is the presentation, who is the presentation to that he mentioned for October 11th?
Development Review Board.
Okay, and then is there a way that the public can see what I believe was passed around to the board, something that, you know, fleshes out, that talks about these things that he's presented?
Yes, I mean, if people want to hand these around, they're available for the public. If you have an email address, we can forward the same thing to you.
I do. Who do I give my email address to?
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
wonder if maybe we could add it as a meeting document on the town's website so that people could just view it on the town's website. I'm going to put it on as a meeting document for this board meeting. It will be with the board packet separately.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Digital.
I'm not addressing that discussion, just
Yeah.
ARPA funds in general, and I guess my personal feelings are, I know I have not attended a lot of, or any of the ARPA meetings specifically, because I don't have any great idea as to where it should be spent, which somewhat tells me that there's still maybe time to sit on some money. We don't have to spend ARPA immediately, so if there's a chunk of money that you still don't know where it's going to go, we know that things happen in this town unexpectedly, such as the Newton Road flood or different things like that that come up. So I don't think it's a real bad idea to still have some unallocated money in there to be looking at in November and December when we're working on the budget. That's just my personal opinion. So that's all. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I hope you're still considering the roof of this building in the ARPA funds. That's my plug.
Anything else on public comment? None being heard, we'll move on. Thank you. Announce a new budget committee session. Anybody interested, please send letters of interest to our town manager. And also to keep in mind that the budget committee will name that, what, the 9th or the 16th? One of the 2 October meetings. Individuals with interest should also take into consideration that we will have customarily 4 meetings.
2 in November.
2 in November, 2 in December, and it'd be nice if anybody volunteering it would be able to make the commitment to be there. But anybody interested, please send resume or whatever to Seth.
Cover sheet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would also add that those are public meetings, which means that everybody's invited. So you don't have to be on the committee to go to the meetings.
How many meetings were there again? I think I was...
Well, customarily we've had 4. We have 2 in November and 2 in December.
So there are no meetings coming up in October?
No, we will name the committee
Okay.
on either the 9th or the 16th of October. Those are the right dates, right?
The 9th is right, but 14th, 9th, 23rd.
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 Okay.
9th or 23rd.
think you had 16. Yeah.
Apologies.
I didn't check it. So with that, we'll move on to 7, letter of support for the Brandon Park Village.
So I included something I had added to the agenda. I included in the package a letter that I've written on your behalf, looking to support a grant application that a private investor was looking to acquire the 333 Jones Drive, which is formerly known as the Compass Music, or still known as the Compass Music Arts Center, with Edna and Stephen leaving and selling the property. This gentleman's interested in purchasing it and putting 19 residential units in the 52,000 square feet. And as a part of the grant application, he needs letters of support from regional planning, which we got, from the Economic Development Corporation, Raleigh Economic Development Corporation's CEDAR, which we got, and the last piece would be endorsement from the town. I thought it'd be nice to have the select board versus just the deputy town manager, economic development officer signing off on a letter of support, supporting creating affordable housing, middle income housing. It's all about housing right now, so and there's an opportunity for them to access CRRP funding.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Moore from the board?
I was curious, so is this a separate investor from the housing that's already there at Park Village?
Yes, so
But it
building
would serve the same.
No, this would be some market rate housing and some middle income housing.
Okay.
And right now the flavor of the month term is missing middle. There's affordable housing out there, and then there's a lot of middle income housing that doesn't exist.
Workforce housing.
Workforce housing, so Building K, Compass Music Arts Center, which was lovingly restored and rescued and restored by Edna and Stephen. And then they had to have a change of plans, unfortunately, and so they're selling the building. This is sort of the next step in seeing that building come to life.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I make a motion that we write that letter of support.
Okay.
I'll second.
You have a second? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Yeah, that's all.
Read the draft.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Number 8, tax stabilization. Let that, probably pass that back on to Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So M&T Associates, the owners of the Dunkin' Donuts mobile station space, approached the select board asking for tax stabilization. Based on what they've invested in the property, they qualify for tax stabilization. When we acquired the property in 2015, written into the terms of the purchase and sale was this blanket authorization for tax stabilization. Thankfully, the select board, about 40 days prior, had approved a tax stabilization policy that was based in investment dollars. And so based on their investment dollars, they're qualified for 10 years of stabilization. It's over $3 million. We have $3 million of receipts from them for their investment. So.
Any questions from the board? Any from the public?
And I understand from this agreement that that was part of our contract with them, that we would grant it, so.
Just fulfilling our half.
Correct.
Right.
And it's in order.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah,
Even without that.
yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
So we need a motion on that. So could we get a motion for tax stabilization for the 9 Conant Square?
I'll make a motion to approve the tax stabilization for 9 Conant Square.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
I'd like to thank the select board for honoring that, and also I'd like to thank former select board members that were here that were part of establishing this tax stabilization policy. The voters voted on establishing tax stabilization back, I think it was 71 or 69, but creating a structure of tax stabilization made it I guess, equitable for people to apply versus just being this nebulous idea about, oh, we're going to provide tax stabilization, has really, I think, benefited the town. And this is our 5th or 6th tax stabilization plan that you guys have approved, and we've seen investment because of it. So, thank you.
What is the number, Bill, with the start number? The number that it was when it was the gas station before, not the vacant lot that they tore down? It should have been when it was the mobile station and they obtained it. Is that correct, the old tax number?
Oh, we're stabilizing at 280, which was the amount after we subtract the 40,000, the parcel that they sold us. So it was valued at 280 after we purchased the property. So that's the amount that we stabilized at. And to be crystal clear for everybody, because I know there's some questions about it, it's the municipal portion of the tax bill only. You guys are not subsidizing the 2/3 of your tax bill that is the school budget. That is still full dollar amount that's going.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Just before you move on, I know you're about to get to the ARPA discussion with the board. I just would like to highlight for the board and the community that 3 instances tonight of really robust economic development in Brandon that indicate people are looking to invest in the community. Between the high school investment that's been proposed to you tonight, the letter of support that you're entering into for the developer who's working to redevelop something at Park Village that is a unique property that would, be a troublesome thing, and what you have seen demonstrated with $3 million of investment in the lot, to the west here. This is a desirable community, and I think that all of the policies and these long years of groundwork that Bill referred to from previous boards, they're all starting to bear fruit. And so I just would encourage the community to pat themselves on the back a little bit. This continues to be an attractive place to have a business, to open a business, to employ people, to build housing, and to live.
Thank you. Now I guess we'll move on to our ARPA allocation discussion. And any suggestions on how we'd like to handle this or start with it? Or I guess my thought is that everybody maybe put their top 3 of that. What?
I remember one by one.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking. We'll go around the table and we'll start.
Can I say 4?
What's that?
Can I say 4, please?
Whatever. No, it's fine. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heather, stop.
I don't know if you need 3. We'll just
Yeah, the top, like.
so we can kind
Yeah,
of.
sure. That makes sense. Okay. So I actually am really glad that Doug said what he said, because I had had trouble putting words to the thought that I had, which is that there are a handful of projects that I feel very strongly about for ARPA funds, and then I don't really know, and I feel like I'm like trying to come up with an idea because we have money versus, and that's kind of, I mean, what a nice problem to have, but nonetheless, I think that Doug's words actually, like you put words really nicely to what I was thinking, which was that I have, I guess, like my number 1 for the town hall roof. I think that to me is a chalk. We've tried for, I think, at least a decade now, and now we have the money. We do for a decade of time, so it would be a good time. My other one is a small one, but one that I think would be really important, is that, like, finishing off that, this is a small, but just making sure we deal with that tennis court so that we can use it as a skate park sooner than later. Which, I mean, it's just my own little.
Do you have a dollar amount for that?
I think Bill gave us one.
So it's $95,000 to create a new court adjacent to the parking lot. However, if we were to
Just the skate park part.
the skate park part, repaving the, and so, if I may interrupt your.
I should have asked you ahead of time, put you on the spot.
I spoke about this last meeting, and I'm really excited about this idea. We got the bill from the paver, and they're supposed to be giving us a number on what it would cost to just put a coat of asphalt down on the tennis court as it is now, remove those poles, and then we can have it right now as a multi-use court that could be used also as a skate park with features that can be moved in and out. and paint tennis court lines, so not putting the tennis court finish down on the asphalt, but sort of as a middle ground to have an opportunity to find out, we're gonna get more people playing tennis, are we gonna build, one week it's a skate park, we put the features down, one week it'd be a tennis court with the lines painted down, so, and that was an idea that was brought up after a select board meeting, I think walked out by Ralph Eat, their former select board member, so I was really, it was like, why do we do that? Why don't we just do paving versus coming up with $100,000 and then pave that lot? So.
Yeah, and then the third one that I'd like to really discuss more is the Brandon High School. And then the fourth one is just the things that we don't have really solid consensus on, just save and invest some. Let it be a little nest egg. That was kind of my thought.
Ryan?
Salt shed, about 175, give or take. Sidewalks, probably around a couple $100,000. Town Farm Road, page 2.
And how much did you have?
Couple hundred, money's gone.
Tim?
Yeah, I remember when we first got the ARPA money announcement, and when we found out how much we were getting, which was 1.1 million. And one of the first discussions we had as a board at the time was how beneficial it would be to invest in solar and have something that would actually produce an income that would be an ongoing benefit of the town. And at the time, we couldn't use the money in that way, even though the board had voted early on to pursue that. But we found we couldn't do that. And subsequently, they changed the rules, so we can do that now. And so I'd like to return to that position and suggest that we use $309,000, which is the amount that the Energy Committee came up with, the portion that is needed to build and own a solar facility that would produce ongoing income for the town in perpetuity. And so that's my number one. I think the town hall roof, could you remind us what the amount on the town hall roof estimate is? Approximate?
My guess would be 200 and a quarter. That's a guess based on the previous quote, which is a number of years old now.
And so I think I would put the town hall roof second, which would use up 530 of it or so. And as I understand, is 560 or 70. I think we have a matching that we need to do to close out the grant for the parking lot. And so I would like to see us use some ARPA money for that. So that would be my three, if I had to put them in order. Would be the solar, the town hall roof, and then the parking lot. And while I'm using up the last bit of my introductory time here, I will once again kind of bring out my own feeling of the importance of trying to find legacy things that will actually be something that generationally people will look back and go, wow, I'm really glad that the board at the time made this investment. And I think that the roof qualifies in my mind for that. And I think that the solar has that same potential.
Okay, thanks.
I guess mine would be, number one would be a salt shed. Expansion, bigger, whatever. Sidewalks. And existing infrastructure. I'm kind of thinking asphalt, whatever. We always end up budget season with always looking for asphalt money, and the way that asphalt and the prices are going, I've heard from several people that this should be considered as a gift. Well, I agree, it should be considered as a gift, and the gift would be to give the taxpayers some relief on maybe their tax bill for adding some pavement around sidewalks. And we definitely need to do something on the salt shed so that we can keep more, so we aren't going to go through what we did this last year. I'm just going to leave it at that. At this point, we'll pass it on to Cecil.
Okay. So first, I would like to allocate approximately $100,000 to repair and replace the sidewalks on Pearl Street and Carver Street. There was an estimate that we got from the Highway Department that was, between 95 and 105,000, kind of squishy, but so I'm thinking like $100,000 to get those. From the reports I've been getting from folks in town, those are the two stretches of sidewalk that are the worst.
Is that Pearl and Carver?
Pearl Street and Carver Street. They're asphalt sidewalks that have very large potholes all the way up and down them. People who use mobility devices are going out into the road because it's actually, they can't get their mobility devices down those sidewalks. I would recommend allocating no more than $60,000 to pursue permitting, engineering, and potential land lease options for a possible solar array. I'm not ready to go whole hog, but I think my understanding from the Energy Committee is that's what they would need right now to kind of get the ball rolling, to figure out whether it's possible, feasible, and affordable for us to have a town solar array. I think $60,000 is a reasonable investment to get that. I would, my other ideas, I don't have numbers for them, but if I were at, and I believe, Doug Bailey's right, we don't have to, we have until December 2024 to allocate everything. So it wouldn't hurt to sit on some money, but I think if I were asked what am I going to do with the rest of it, I would put some toward any matching grants we need for the Union Street sidewalk. We've expanded the work order on that to include sewer and water lines. So that's going to cost more. Grants are available, but we'll probably have to match for those. And so I would allocate funds to do that. The other thing I would allocate funds to is our sewer lines eventually are going to be replacing. A lot of them are really old. We have 22 miles of them in town. I would put some towards that. You can't see it. It's not one of those things you can point to, like, we built this with our ARPA money, but it's something we desperately, we don't want to have non-working sewer lines.
Do you have a dollar amount for the sewer line?
I do not, as I said.
$1 million a mile is Steve's
$1 million
estimate.
a mile.
$1 million a mile.
And are grants available for things like that?
Yeah.
So we could use it towards matching.
Yes.
I'm going to go back. I want to address your 60,000 on the solar. I think that at the last meeting when we heard about this, money's on the $60,000. As far as I know, there hasn't been a meeting with the parties involved, nor the town, to warrant $60,000. Talking to some of the individuals that were involved in that discussion, there was not a lot of interest during the party with the other two contributing parties from my understandings.
I wonder if you could explain, because I'm aware of those conversations, is at this point, everybody involved, Acorn and the Energy Committee and the landowner is enthusiastic about this project.
Well, I don't know how enthusiastic they are because I've talked to members of the committee, not members of the Energy Committee, members of the other committees.
What are the committees?
This was discussed, and is this something that we can discuss openly?
Yeah.
The
I think you can discuss openly everything except the party who was considering the lease,
okay.
the landowner.
The parties involved are the school
The school, yeah.
and the fire district and the town of Brandon and the developer. Correct?
That's Acorn at this point?
Aegis?
Aegis, right.
Well,
They're the manufacturer, installer.
Right. I don't know that none of the school district or the fire district have met with the town, the Energy Committee, and from what I understand from the folks I've talked to in the school district and the folks that I've talked to in the fire district, there is no great enthusiasm on partnering in a lease to do this.
No, that's true. That hasn't been established yet. But the,
And so that my point is that I think before we spent $60,000 of town monies, that meeting should be done and we should have the blessing and the blessing from the other two parties that are in there. And
yeah, it's the order of events that I think we're talking about, because the reason for the 60,000 was to flush out enough of a design and idea so they could then approach the water, the fire, the school, and then determine if they found it advantageous to go in on it. And so you're right, it hasn't been established yet, but that's what the 60 is for.
right, so it's up to us to spend the $60,000.
No.
Mr. Emerson,
I know.
this discussion is for the board only at this point.
Inaccurate information.
So my point is that I just don't think, my personal point is I can't bring myself to spend $60,000 of taxpayer money to see if the other organizations are interested in coming in with it. That's where I'm at on that.
Yeah.
Jim, do you want to correct something, or?
Yes, this request for $60,000 was not to spend $60,000. It is about trying to get through the hurdle of having the chicken and the egg problem. We could not get a fixed price from a developer. And the fire district said, don't come back until you have some concrete numbers to present something that they could consider. So the idea is to get we need a lease and a known commitment from the town that they want to explore this. If we don't get a lease, we're not going to get a price. If we don't get a commit from the town, we're not going to get a price. If we did get say the town is committed to exploring this, and we did by expressing setting aside up to 50, 60,000 for this permitting process, then we can get a lease, then we can get a price, then we can go to the school district, then we can go to the fire district, and then we can say, oh, we got a deal. Let's spend $60,000 to proceed.
Okay.
It is spend zero until you get those steps handled.
All right, thank you.
And then if we don't go ahead, then the 50,000 can be reallocated to other worthy purposes.
That was helpful, thank you.
That was, yeah, I didn't understand it that way. Okay.
We're gonna go back around the table, Tim.
Going
Anything?
back around for what?
Well, I mean, anything from any of the rest you heard from the rest of us that you wanna,
I would similarly like to see sidewalks done, and I think that that seems like a likely great use of the money. I like the salt shed at some point. It wouldn't be high on my list. The paving suggestion, I think, falls too much under stuff that we fund with our taxes each year, and it's not onerous for the town. It's something that, you know, our tax rates have been stable for all the years I've been on the board, and I don't see paving as being a high need for this money.
right? You,
Town infrastructure, and we should maintain what we have before we add anything else. And solar has too many variables we don't know about, and it's recklessly spending taxpayer dollars because there are fees in here that nobody knows.
back to you, Heather. Don't you heard everybody's suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with sidewalks. There's not a bad idea on the bunch. I mean, I'm gonna be truthful, like, it's not like I can look at any one and be like, well, that's stupid. You know, like it's, everything really, it's hard to, it's easy to say go for it, it's hard to say like, then it means we can't do this or that. I think that sidewalks, it sounds like, sort of come with a little hope of consensus from the board, since there's a number of us that I would be perfectly comfortable with sidewalks. If you've ever tried to walk down Pearl Street in the winter, you just plain can't unless you want to throw out your back from like slipping on puddles that are frozen. I also think I think that the roof of the town hall we should really think about as a when I think about the people that I know in town that are sort of my generation and have kids, the things that are keeping us in Brandon, and then the things that we're driving other places for. The things that we are driving other places for are like, well, sidewalks would be one. Like, it used to be that everybody learned to ride the bike at Nexus because that's what you did. Or, you know, the town hall, just having things going on, that's a huge draw. I mean, I know the Pokemon Club doesn't sound like a big deal, but ask any 10-year-old and tell me it is. Same with Dance and Aikido. I think that the amount of people who benefit from that is enormous. Similarly with the sidewalks, to just make our town appealing so that we get people wanting to live here and more tax money, so we do more stuff in the future. But I was really thinking of things that, the skate park, really my thought was, we drive really far there. Like, we drive far often to go to pump tracks and skate parks. We regularly drive 30 minutes to Bristol. And that's just my family, but that is one thing that I think of as I think of like what would I want for kids, would I want like sidewalks for them to ride on safely. And in my perfect world, also other things.
Cecil?
Question on the town hall roof, so you're thinking of $225K, is that something grants can get? Grants are available for?
So I think the Friends have pursued some grants for this, right, Jan, or not, right? Was it early on? Was that the initial quote from Scardella?
That was the quote we got, but if you're not going with, if you want to go with historical, then you're limited on your grants too. And then I'm not sure what I think our last grant was a cultural facility, so those you can only get every other year.
But the town has the ability to pursue our own cultural facilities side as well from buildings and grounds. And you know, something that, you know, Seth and I have discussed with people that are supposed to be giving us quotes on this is the possibility of replacing with something that looks like slate, but that isn't slate. And much to the chagrin of the historic renovators here, but that, you know, that's one of the things that we're considering, just because.
And the building is almost all renovated, so if we couldn't get a cultural facility grant or the historic preservation one anymore, it wouldn't be the end of the world if they didn't go with slate again.
There'll be matches.
Okay, and so, well, and that's kind of where I was going, is that we really, whatever we do with this money, to the extent that we can leverage it, so that we're using it as matching funds to get, you know, more money from somewhere else. And so whether that's for the water lines or the sewer lines or the sidewalks or the town hall roof, or probably not the salt shed, I'm guessing there. What's the state highway department has something?
I think you could, Mr. Chair. I think you could reasonably expect to use ARPA money to leverage a match for a new highway facility, but not for a salt shed. I actually question the prudence of putting a new salt shed up at that site before the new facility is planned.
Well, and that was my other question, is no one had raised the issue of perhaps using ARPA money to leverage against funding for the new town garage that everyone seems to think we need. And we've talked about naming one in the past. So that's another potential. If there's grant money out there for a new town garage, then we need ARPA money to match against that. I just think
It's super exceptional opportunity to be able to get a grant that you can use as a matching fund to get other grants. Like usually that's very against the rules.
right. And so this is like something we shouldn't miss that opportunity.
I would just
You know,
consider.
this is, I mean, this is, you know, I keep joking that this is, you know, Aunt Nancy's birthday check. It's money that, you know, spend it on something frivolous, not on the groceries. But I'm not talking about, I mean, this is not frivolous stuff, but it's kind of, do we spend it on things that we are already using tax dollars for, and it's kind of the way we've always done it. It's like tax dollars go to X, Y, and Z, and then here's this thing that we've got this money, it's given to us with very few strings attached, and this is our opportunity to use it to get as much as possible with it. And that's why I'm looking at, well, yes, I would say for Carver Street and Pearl Street, I would just take the ARPA money flat out and fix those sidewalks. But for everything else, I'm like, let's try and use it to leverage whatever else, whatever we choose to end up spending the money on.
I definitely think it's a consensus that everybody here thinks that sidewalks are something that needs to be addressed. So, is there any other sidewalks other than the two that you've mentioned that are in dire need?
Oh, sure. West Seminary Street?
Well, and it's interesting to realize it's only 917 feet of Carver Street. You're talking about Carver Street casually, like it's the street. And the truth is, the sidewalk goes much past.
I was gonna say, because that 95.
It certainly won't get down to my house.
The $100,000 just seems, it seems lacking to me that it doesn't, that it isn't going to cover the, as you're saying, the whole street.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying the whole street has to be done. The number that Cecil's referring to that we got from Sean, I think, was 916 feet, which is the east and west side of Carter Street, and I'm assuming that's starting from the center of town.
It's starting from the segment 6 section. It was done in front of Ayrshire.
From the segment 6 section, where is that?
In front of Ayrshire and by Lori Bertrand's office. That's where segment 6 new concrete stopped.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. And I don't know approximately how far 916 feet is, but I bet just not to my house.
Right.
And then the other one was Pearl Street, 1,530 feet, which is 5 feet. And I think that will cover a bunch more, probably all of the Pearl Street side.
Right. I didn't have that number, but thank
But
you.
that sounds like to Rossiter, Carver to Rossiter, right, Rossiter?
It's,
comes
yeah,
from
and my guess
Church.
is a little further than
It's a
Rossiter.
little further.
There's new concrete down around St. Mary's back towards
Yeah,
town a bit more.
there's a little section
And that's,
that's
I
good.
believe when you talked about it once before, that's what you had told us at another meeting. It's going to connect up that concrete.
I think what Brian's highlighting is that that number represents the linear feet of sidewalk, but you have to cut it in half because there's a sidewalk on both sides.
Well, actually, here it says 916 feet by 5 feet, east side and west side. So I assume from that, both sides 916 feet.
Okay.
I don't know, you tell me, it isn't an engineering work.
I can't tell from the way that's written.
Yeah. And I'm not to break the train of thought, but I wonder if I could just make a small point of clarification, because, Brian, shared his feelings about solar. And I gotta say that 8 years ago, when I moved here, I built my little house and put solar on it, spent $10,000. Some people may have considered that reckless at the time. I just looked at my phone, I've made $13,000 worth of power since then. And rather than reckless, I really consider it a wisdom if we could use our money to put into solar so the town could have a similar benefit that I'm having. Because all of my power now for the next amount of time that I live in Brandon is going to be free.
Anything else on the board? Anybody wants to chime in on? I mean, I do agree with Mr. Bailey that I don't think we need to spend this.
Can I make one quick point, Tracy? I know you don't want
Yeah.
input, but I just have, when you're talking about the highway department, or you're talking about sewer and water lines, those are bondable jobs that go long-term. And that's how they're normally maybe covered, where something like the sidewalk or the building roof is an exceptional thing that's more in line. And people that are on water and sewer are the ones that pay for the water and sewer lines, not the entire population of town.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I was just making a list of so, of the ideas that have been mentioned, I was writing like, who was in favor of what from
So
discussion.
just tell me.
Yeah, like sidewalks have 4, everything else has 2 or 3. The town hall roof, I would love to just revisit and see if there was more than 2. Because I don't think I got them all. But I was just kind of going through and going like, I think we can narrow things down based on.
I'm gonna chime in on the town hall roof. I definitely think it's something that we need to look at, but I'm not crazy about spending $225,000 to put slate on it. I think that we could do something adequate for far less. Anything that I've ever had to do with roofing at all, slates are.
Could you suggest the numbers that we could use tonight?
I can't because I don't have. If we were gonna do that, I would like to get some roofing contractors and try to get some numbers.
Mr. Chair, so Bill Moore and I both in different ways have been reaching out to roofing contractors to try to get someone to come up with a number. I wonder if it's the sense of the board that this is a a ready enough possibility that you might want us to put it out in a formal request for proposals and actually see in a broad way, like put it on the state site and so on and so forth, rather than, right now we're working with people we've worked with before and people who are in the fairly immediate area. And many of them are in positions that many of those companies are in, which is that they don't have enough laborers to do the work that they have, and they're not sure they can responsibly take on a project of this size.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be my take, but like I said, I guess I'm not for replacing it with something that's gonna be cost $250 million. I don't think it needs to be that.
I like your word adequate, because as much as this is a historical building, we are also part of history. It doesn't need to be necessarily the way it started 200 years from now, like,
Well, we need
we
to
want to make sure we get the grants and follow the rules.
We want to make sure we don't have to repay grants that we've already spent to
Oh,
put
okay.
historically correct windows in the building,
Correct.
which
That
we
makes
have.
sense.
Right.
Absolutely.
This is my huge hesitation.
Concern, yes, and that makes sense. But also,
But
I'm
yes,
fine with not going high end.
I don't think there's any harm in putting out RFP because, well, if we get them and we don't like any of the numbers, we just.
if that's the consensus of the board, I think that might be the wisest way to get the most alternatives. We could put out a request for proposals for the roof, say that it's currently slate, and that the board would consider slate and slate alternatives.
Mhm.
I think that's a great idea, because I have the same sort of a tough pill to swallow, that price. But also, when I think of how many times I come here each week, and then I think I'm just one person in this town, and how many people can reap the benefit of that, I think
It's a community center, you know, it's the town hall community center.
it has transformed my experience of living in this town. To have this running again. I'll put Brian and Tracy on the spot, but it makes it how you remember it.
What's that?
I was just teasing. I said.
I remember it was slate.
When it was.
No, I was saying.
When it was, yeah, when it was first built.
You read,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
I
thanks.
wasn't saying that. I was teasing
You got me
that.
there though.
I was teasing that because it was open when you were kids, right? It was open when my dad was a kid.
There was a jail cell in here when I was a kid.
Yeah, we don't want to go that far back.
Okay.
Teen center.
Teen center.
That was the teen center.
Teen center should have jail cells.
Roller skating.
Roller skating, yeah. So when I think of that, I just think, in my mind, the things that I have attended here, like just think like Brandon Idol, like, we want that to keep going, we don't want leaks in the roof that make it get canceled, you know, and that's just like one example. So I would love to, I mean.
So we're gonna put out our RFP on it, or Mr. Hopkins will. What's anybody's, let's talk about the sidewalks a little bit more. I'd like to see us I just think your 100,000 is a little low.
Well, like I said, that's based on the estimate that we got, and my understanding is that that was for purposes of fixing the worst parts of the sidewalks, and so maybe that's why it's shorter on Carver Street. I certainly would not be opposed to getting an estimate that goes further down Carver Street, or, you know, I mean, there's so many places in town where we have sidewalks that need work, and so, you know, starting to, like, figuring out, I started with this because we actually had some numbers on it. But West Seminary Street sidewalk.
I guess the way that I'd like to see that happen would be to consult with our road foreman and let him identify where he thinks our most beneficial place would be for sidewalks.
I think that would have the added benefit of being cognizant of something that a lot of old towns have trouble with, which is that they're not accessible for people who can't walk. And I think that we would get the additional benefit of making a lot of our town a lot more accessible to folks who need it. anything other than.
Would anybody like to put a number on that?
For the sidewalk?
Okay. Out of the total ARPA allocation, how much to allocate for sidewalks?
Yes.
So we have 589, give or take.
69.
569, give or take.
I based on what the foreman they say. A couple hundred.
I think 150 is probably.
Well, it depends on if we're talking about using ARPA money flat out to repair some sidewalks, or if we're talking about using it to leverage for many more sidewalk projects in town than just the two. I mean, I would propose taking $250,000 of the ARPA money to use toward either straight out repairs of sidewalks or getting matching funds for grants to repair them.
Yeah, I think that's too much.
Could I offer
Mr. Hopkins.
Absolutely.
an advisory thing, not a numbers discussion? So with this Union Street sidewalk project, as it was conceived, when Mr. Atherton was town manager, he did come to the board in public session a couple of times and say that although we were getting a 50-50 match on the Union Street sidewalk project, that because of all the additional requirements that inure to going through the state system, which is funded with federal money, that his sense was, and I think it's correct, that we could have done the sidewalks ourselves at 100% of the cost for less money than the 50% of the cost is for this matched grant, because we would have done it to a locally acceptable standard, and it would not have been as complex as what we're getting into.
And Mr. Atherton being in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh just did theirs, and that's the way that they did it.
They did that locally.
They did that locally with the town crew got the base ready, and then I believe it was Wilkes that I see that they could contract with to come up through. And I want to say that they did that whole thing for somewhere around 100.
Oh, wow. And it's that very long stretch of 7.
They did.
That was in Rochester.
But that was with the town, with them doing it. Don't hold me to that, but for some reason that's a number that.
So like doing your own demo before the.
But that was our plan here as well, right?
I mean, that's what Seth was just saying, and that was the original plan, that we'd go through and do the.
And that's what these numbers are based on.
That makes Sean's
Our
estimate.
crew doing this work.
Yes, but this is not leveraging money. This is just
Exactly.
spending
And that's what Seth is saying on the leveraging part.
And I agree.
And I agree with that too.
Yeah,
It might not be a great look.
I think the mistake to go way over this is that it's like throwing money at people that aren't asking for money. And so at this point, this is the number we got from Sean to do, a bunch of sidewalk, and it's about 100. And I think maybe go up to 125, would be a generous way of saying do a little more. But to see how much has been done in Pittsburgh for 100,
And
that's
like I said,
a lot of sidewalk.
don't hold me to that number. That is a number that I heard throughout. Bernie, I'm going to let you chime in just because you went down.
Oh, well, I don't, but don't forget too, that's a temporary, really a stopgap measure, because they're in 2027, 2028, they're doing their.
They're doing a
segment six,
complete.
so
That's right.
and that could have
They're
been
doing
a more slipshod job just to get it patched
They're just-
over.
But they were definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
In
Done
need of-
in-house.
You are right. It was a patch, but I guess my point being that we could probably do close to the same as far as the base and not, and make it work.
I would, for an example that you could compare it to that many people will be familiar with, I would say the north side of Park Street was done on an asphalting kind of basis. The south side of Park Street took 3 construction seasons to do on a concrete kind of basis, and that would be the difference in the kind of quality of sidewalk that we would be talking about. If the town were to do it all in its own money, unless you wanted to spread it out over, multiple budget years, you'd be looking at a Park Street like north side of Park Street kind of asphalted sidewalk. But if we're gonna go with the state, we'll be getting a south side of Park Street kind of quality.
North Street is where your old house,
Yeah.
north side is
Yeah,
where your house.
where your folks are.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Tim's at you were at 150 to start with,
Yeah.
you were at 250, you're at 200.
Do I hear 175?
Well,
I'd be fine with 150 as a nice compromise between the highs and the lows. That seems.
I mean, I'm gonna bid with I'm gonna bid for Cecil, I'm gonna say 175.
I'm with you. I'd go higher. Yeah, 175 sounds absolutely fine to me. The sidewalks will get a lot of use by a lot more people if they aren't so lumpy that you
Fall down all the time.
fall down or like
I
give
mean,
head
and
injuries by pushing
that would
stroller
be
on
after,
them.
that would be after Sean's, or Sean and their, what do you wanna see?
so should we do this by motions? I mean, that's.
Well, I mean, I think that's what we're moving into.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's a good idea.
So I move that we allocate $175,000 of the ARPA grant toward repairing the Pearl and Carver Street sidewalks, and to the extent there's funds left over from that, other sidewalks that need to be repaired.
I'm going open that for discussion, and what I'd like to discuss on that would be that I would just like to see that
Just sidewalks.
sidewalks, upon our, as recommended from our,
Yeah,
road foreman.
I can work with that.
That's the way I'd like to see the motion.
The way that it was written in that estimate.
Well, no, it'd be $175,000,
They would do
Upon
a
the-
survey.
upon the road foreman's request, survey, whatever,
Priorities.
priorities, correct.
Yeah, that, I mean, he's the expert on that.
I wouldn't,
so
I wouldn't,
think
I wouldn't
that's
name a,
reasonable.
I wouldn't name a street, I guess, is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Yeah, I think that's, we hired somebody that we trust. and we
Yeah.
should-
Yeah, so I will,
That seems like a reasonable way to.
yeah, I can reword my motion to allocate $175,000 of the ARPA grant towards repair or replacement of sidewalks as identified by the highway foreman.
Right, we got a second on that?
I'll second it.
More discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we need a motion on getting bids for?
I don't think we need a motion on that, that's just something that's gonna
We
happen.
could choose to allocate a certain amount towards the town hall roof and then just require any other money that's required to.
I don't think I would do that yet,
To get proposals.
with personal opinion, but I mean,
I
that's just,
thought your goal was to try to work through the ARPA.
well, I mean, our goal is, but I mean, as Mr. Bailey had noted, that we don't have to spend it all.
Yeah, we can always wait.
I mean, we do have budget season coming in, and we might decide that we need to do something different.
So,
But I mean, if the board so wishes to allocate all of it, I don't have a problem sitting here until we get it all allocated.
The only things that I have two things when it comes to I just, having come onto the board, and it's not anybody, I'm not trying to point fingers, but one thing that has been a frustration for me is discovering that we have matches that we need to come up with that didn't have a plan. And in an effort to not do that, I think that maybe there's just a way to sort of say, let's not spend but reserve, an amount that we agree on for the town hall roof, and if we don't spend it, it just doesn't get spent. But just so that we aren't double spending ourselves by accident, or double wishing ourselves or something, keeping people's hopes up for things. I mean, I don't know how to phrase it right, but.
Yeah, so.
But just in an effort to avoid a situation where we're like, well, now we got these awesome deals and we want to do it, but we've already earmarked money.
Well, that's what I'm saying, not, you know, we don't
Maybe just
have to
leave
be
it
in,
at that for tonight.
we don't have to be in a hurry to do that. I mean, the other thing I guess that I would like to see Mr. Hopkins do would be to, and Sean I'm sure has it, get us a concrete number on what the building would be for a salt shed building. Well, Mr. Moore, when you had that at one point in time when you were interim town manager, you did have a number. That was a rough number. I don't think it was a...
It was a rough number. It was a quote from 2019 or 2020. Like, it was a fairly old quote at the point at which we were even considering it. Like, we were, you know, actually, interestingly enough, the quote we ended up getting was from, it might have been from one of our contractors that bid out our Newton Road rebuild. So, FYI. That was
I mean, just for curiosity's sakes, I guess I'd like to see a number.
So on the subject of matches, Tim had raised the issue of using, and I think we're at a $50,000 number for closing out that. And so that's not something that we've discussed a lot, but I think that that would be a good use of the funds, since we didn't have a source for it identified previously. Another thing, and I think Heather brought this up, is I think we should consider the $40,000 ask that we got tonight from Mr. Briscoe from the high school.
You gonna make a motion?
Sure, I would.
Do you want to start on the parking lot, close up? I mean,
Sorry.
it sounds like a seek motion.
Okay, yeah, I was just blabbering.
Well, I mean,
I'll
I
make
think
a parking
the way
lot
we've done
motion.
too is to make a motion to see if there's a board, majority board.
I'll make a motion about spending for the parking lot, because I think that's.
So we don't have any funds, we got a motion here, is
Make
there
a
a
motion.
second?
And I
Make the
second
motion.
I,
So you make the
so
motion.
with the understanding that this was hopefully, gosh, fingers crossed, the last of the grants that we have discovered
That
that we
gives
need
you a
to.
criteria within the motion.
Right.
Just need to make the motion.
Right, just
Fair
make the
enough.
motion.
Okay, my motion is that we use it's
$50,000.
50,000 of the ARPA money to
Match.
match the grant that we received for the municipal parking lot.
Great. I second that.
Get a second, now we're gonna open it for discussion. And so we haven't got anything allocated any place for this. It's been,
We haven't allocated anything. The other options would be the local option tax fund. The 1% fund has $110,000 in it. I wouldn't recommend dipping into the fund
And
balance.
we're planning on that fund getting built back up enough to pay for
Union
Union
Street.
Street, because we had previously identified that as a source for Union Street.
Right, but it's a whole year of 1% fund to match the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So this was a different expense that we had not planned for at this juncture.
I will say, the project did come in at like $99,000 and change in total expenses as submitted, but it was envisioned as being $185,000 and change when it was first planned. So it was done at a very cost-efficient way. The parking lot, I'm
That's
sorry.
great, yeah.
It was done in a very cost-efficient way. It's just that the follow-through of assigning, kind of allocating how we were going to match it was not ever voted on, discussed at the board level.
I think that this is a time where your aunt's birthday money kind of came at an opportune moment and solved a problem.
all right, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor on $50,000 to pay the match, the parking lot, is that what we call it?
Conant Square
Conant
parking ride.
Conant Square parking ride. All, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
So now we're down to,
Okay, so I will make a motion that we allocate $40,000 of the ARPA fund to assist the, there's not any cute way to say revish. To assist them to capture state tax credits to go forward with renovating the high school before it falls into the ground.
I'll second the motion in order.
For discussion
In order to-
purposes?
for discussion.
Okay, the floor is open, or the board table is open for discussion.
My question's for you, Bill. Sorry, put you on the spot. Is that something that, and maybe this is just my ignorance, but is that something that the revolving loan fund? That's not a thing for that, right?
It's
That's
not
the
typically
type of
something
thing?
that it would fund, no.
Okay.
But it could.
No, it could, but they're not asking for loans, we need to grant.
Okay.
And, yeah, I mean, and like, you know, and the, you know, I guess it's up to the board, but the board has typically used it as, you know, around job creation, gap funding for people that can't get traditional lending, or partnering with traditional lenders to sort of fill some gaps. And or people have been denied from banks. I mean, it's kind of the work through, and I've not seen a project like this be funded by that board, or that money.
That's, I was just wondering.
Any other discussion? Well, we're going to vote the motion. All those in favor of the $40,000 for the high school grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Abstained?
I just need more information, so I stand.
So the motion doesn't pass.
Motion doesn't pass.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we allocate $60,000 of ARPA money for the solar engineering study to allow the Energy Committee to move forward with their work.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I think I was really, it was helpful to get that clarification about how basically this is to get the ball rolling, and, you know, the project either, you know, it might not even happen. If it doesn't happen, we're not out $60,000, but, you know, this is kind of, someone has to take the first step, and I think that it's enough of a benefit to the town to at least spend this is a little more than 10% of the ARPA funds that we have, of the remaining ARPA funds that we have, to explore that.
I just, I can't bring myself to want to do that. I don't think that the town needs to be in the solar business, and I don't like the idea of having the town having to have a lease, doing leases, and I just think it's a bad situation to get ourselves into.
I think it was that good of a deal. It seems like the parties, the solar company or the landowner should step up and fund more for themselves. It's not, I don't think it's up to the taxpayer to do that. That's foolish, in my opinion, that's foolish taxpayer spending.
Well,
We have plenty of other monies we can spend that money, spend taxpayer dollars on.
Well, that's kind of why I think spending the ARPA money is because it's not taxpayer money.
Well,
It's federal,
actually,
it's federal
it is.
taxpayer money, but,
I
you know,
pay federal
it's money
taxes,
that
so
we
that's my
never
money.
would have expected to get, and
And I might add that, you know, precedent-wise, you know, Middlebury has been through this, and we're not Middlebury, but the point is, they did decide to go in and buy a big chunk of solar power production. Bristol's done this, and to their benefit. And so this isn't like we're, you know, we're inventing the wheel. This is something a lot of municipalities are exploring in one way or another, and it's appropriate for Brandon to explore it too.
I just need, so if we proceed, so say we vote that yes, we'll offer up the 60,000. If we do that next phase and decide, no, this is just not for us, there's not enough support, then we're out how much? I'll look to you, Jim, so that I make sure I get the right, can I ask you?
I think Seth can answer the question for you.
Oh, you can, oh, okay, Seth.
You had that the other night, Joe?
Or you can ask Tim, either way.
Do you
Or
want,
Tim, yeah, Tim
do
would
you want me
have
to,
I was gonna say-
Oh, Jim.
Jim?
I would defer to Jim.
Okay, so, Jim, am I understanding that right? So if we voted yes, we're gonna give the money, then you do the research and you know what, like, whatever, school's not into it and the fire district hates it, whatever, I'm just, then we have paid 60 or then we have paid 0?
0.
Okay, then, okay, then I think that's.
Isn't there an option on, don't we have to do something and doing something on a lease option? That we're still gonna be out to address this?
Oh,
But that would be not much for me.
that was like,
I think.
Well,
5,000 isn't much to some
Well-
people, but it's quite a bit to me.
I think the essence of your question, and as I understand the situation, is that there's some initial money that has to go into getting the process started, which might be getting a lease option,
Right.
which is a fairly small amount of money. It's certainly not 60, and it's not.
No, it's 500 or so.
It's around 500 or so. And so I think there would be some funds spent,
But
just
do
for the
we-
record.
But do we know that? Do we know that's gonna be 500? Or do you have something in writing or something to solidify that it's going to be $500?
That's the part that needs to be firmed up, but that's the part that we're talking about, a range of money that is where the majority of the money would come back if in fact we start with 500 is not the right thing. But there would be some initial expenses just to getting the ball rolling. That's the purpose of the 60. It's like, it's supposed to be to get things started, right?
Very short, Jim. I'm not gonna give you much time.
Well, just, to have a lease option, a price needs to be negotiated. Seth needs to be authorized to say negotiate a price. You can set any parameters you want on that negotiation and what the upside is. And 18 other towns have done this. Colchester's on their 3rd project, so it's not like we're inventing the wheel. This is what people are. This was before the 30% rebates that these 18 towns have did.
All right, thank you.
Done this. So, yeah, I know you don't want to hear it.
We've heard it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Like I said, I think the school and the water district need to be on board right to start with, right off the get-go. If they're not, that's where I'm at, but is there any other discussion on it? Yep. We'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. 2, 3.
Okay, so that brings us to 285 out of 569. 284.
What's the difference, Steve?
284.
284 left. So I guess I think supporting our rec department, and I'm curious to see where the board feels about the tennis courts. I have $95,000 written down for resurfacing the tennis courts.
That's for building the new tennis courts.
Correct. And again, I'm on the board, sort of gone in a different direction since that initial conversation, the idea of having this interim step. One, because we are, just one, because we're also not, there's been some question about any kind of activity that occurs at Estabrook Park and the level of clearance we need to do things down at Estabrook Park. but that the resurfacing of the court in its current location with asphalt would not be in violation in any of that, especially where you put up portable tennis court nets like we do with pickleball, and then again, it become a multi-use court just by the fact that we don't have poles that are driven down to the ground that aren't falling.
Do you have any idea what kind of money you're looking at for that?
So we were very fortunate, I think, to get the contractor to come and do the work for us in conjunction with Dunkin' Donuts, and as a part of this, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna send you guys an estimate. He has to send an estimate. I pushed him, but I don't wanna push him too much because he was great about getting us piled onto this. I think this is a busy time for them when they're, trying to get everything done before the end of the asphalt season, but.
But for reference, the top coat on the parking lot was $15,000 and some change.
So for $15,000 max, it sounds like,
I would be highly surprised if it was moved.
then we could have, at every time you go to Estabrook, your kid could be riding their bike, learning to roller skate, like, that to me.
Unless someone's playing pickleball.
They can fight it out with the people playing pickleball. Good luck. Good luck to the pickleball players. These kids are feisty. No, I think that as I look at what my students, like the ones who, like, it's something that people are using more and more. And we've had a discussion already this summer about, like, kids are riding bikes on the sidewalks. Well, if you don't want them to do that, you gotta give them something else, because they're gonna do something, and quite honestly, a few $1,000s on a skate park seems
So
wonderful.
would we also want to consider money necessary to buy ramps or, the things that you would need to move back and forth to make it into a
Oh my
skate
God,
park?
you'd have so many people that wanna make that stuff, Cecil. Oh my goodness. You'd have to hold Ethan back.
So, like, it feels like Christmas morning for me. But I haven't gone that far down the rabbit hole. However, I've connected with somebody who does this for Bristol, or for Middlebury, and they've offered to bring some features down so we could try some stuff, like some temporary features that we put down there.
That's a,
It seemed like a really supportive community.
There's
I have no
also,
numbers as far as.
Tony Hawk's Foundation does grants for skate parks, so that's also something to possibly look into.
I just think the amount of use that we could potentially have on that, and I just, as somebody who works with kids, telling them not to do something, you better give them a better option, or they will think of something else and you might not like it better than whatever they did in the first place. So in my mind, it would be a Christmas morning thing to me too, Bill.
So do
Is
we,
it 2 tennis courts? In the,
It's a double tennis court
It's a
down
double
there,
tennis
yes.
court. So it says tennis court surface area 2,800 square feet. So 2 is like 5,600 square feet plus some outside stuff. And the parking lot, the Conant Square parking lot was 7,000 square feet that they asphalted in 1.5-inch top course. So
There's gotta-
probably come.
There's gonna be a cost to getting it ready.
I was
For the
gonna
top
say,
coat.
I can't imagine they're just
It's
gonna.
not, they're not
No,
just
no.
gonna come in and
Just pour it.
lay the asphalt. I mean, they're gonna have to come in and somebody or construction would have to go out to bid or.
I'd like to come up with a number that we could devote to this. I think this is a useful, and if the number, if like 30,000 would be a reasonable top amount to spend on something like this, that seems like a reasonable amount to put.
and that would include, let's just say that would include asphalting, any repairs to the fences that need to be made, and striping, painting, or tennis/pickleball/basketball/.
And to be clear, like, I would not be advocating for putting down the thin, like, layer that tends to get cracked. It's really nice for playing tennis on, but it's
Right.
also just, it would be tore up by bikes and skate right away.
We want things wheels can beat on.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd want the same as if you had.
So I guess I make a motion that we devote $30,000 to that area and allow Mr. Moore to spend it as far as he can.
We're gonna motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think we can get it paid for less than that.
I
Sure.
definitely think so. 30,000
Well, I mean,
is probably not.
So this is a
He
not,
put up to
this is
30,000
a
in
not
there.
to exceed number.
This is a not to exceed, but it's also recognizing that paving is just the kind of big piece that we're talking about, but that there's likely to be other expenses.
Preparing and asphalt.
And
Getting
improving.
rid of the fence.
And improvement.
And so I guess I'm expecting all of this money to go up to that limit, and then we'll have as nice a facility as that buys. So that's why I chose 30.
I would add, some Christmas morning, Christmas wish list, that there's I don't know what that would cost, but if we approve that much,
I think we've got to vote the motion we've got.
oh yeah, vote it.
Any other discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Proposed.
Aye.
When you're saying aye, you mean?
No, I'm
He means
opposed.
nay.
Nay.
He means
Nay. I said opposed, I said aye. Sorry.
I'm gonna break you of that habit. Yeah, I know.
And so I guess the other
Confusing.
motion I would say is to put 150,000 towards the town hall roof. Again, that's an up to amount, and if for some reason it comes out to more than that, well, I'm just going to say the motion. I make a motion that we appoint $150,000 of ARPA money towards the town hall roof repair. That's my motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm going to open it for discussion. I would rather see us wait till we get our RFP and see what the total is on it. I guess I'd like to have a total number. I would prefer to see a total number other than an up to number. That's just my take on it. I'd rather, you know, if it comes in at 175, I don't want to have to come back and say, okay.
Yeah, I think the other perspective is that what we've witnessed, I mean, especially because we've been on the board since this came out, is that we went from 1.1, you know, reasonable stuff. I think everything we spent on at this point has been good things. You know, we bought a truck with it.
Okay.
And yet, I think that if the money stays undesignated, it's going to shrink. And that's why I think I'm interested in kind of wedging this in there. And then if for some reason we decide either not to do it, or, you know, for any number of reasons things fall through, we get it back, kind of like the same thing with the...
I mean, I agree with you, but I agree, but I disagree. It's not going to shrink unless three of us make it shrink.
Well, it's true. I mean, we mentioned budget season. The temptation to use that in budget time, I think, is going to be large. And I guess I'd like to see us... The whole purpose of tonight is to try to just go through this process.
Right, and I
know you do.
And I agree with that.
I know you do.
But like I said, I guess I would be, I could vote for it if I knew the number.
Yep.
If it was $150,000, I knew that, I could get behind it. I can't get behind it just to allocate it at this point. I'd like to see what the numbers are.
Do we have a motion?
We got a motion, and you seconded it. We're open it, it's open for discussion. Any other discussion?
I have to say, I'm kind of interested in waiting to see what numbers we get back from the RFP. I understand Tim's point of if there's ARPA money hanging out there during budget season, people might be like, well, we'll just spend it on this and not have to raise taxes, and I get that. But I also, we have another year in which to allocate funds, and I don't want us to feel like we're rushing into having to make decisions if we don't feel ready to make the decisions. And on the town hall roof, I support it, I want to see numbers first.
Any other discussion? We're going to vote the motion. All those in favor of allocating $150,000 towards, 150, right? Yep. $150,000 towards the town hall roof, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay, is it?
Nay.
Nay.
Like a horse, like a horse. And we can definitely revisit it once we get the RFPs.
Yes, yes, that.
I'd
Yes.
make a motion to hold the rest of the money, not spend any more tonight.
Don't spend any more until you get the bid on the roof.
That's right.
That's,
Do we have a second on that?
to not spend any more money until we get a bid on a roof.
Well,
No, I think his
Or
motion
just-
was.
The motion was
to
not spending more
spend
money tonight.
Not spending any more money on this tonight.
not that,
And-
Allocate.
And we're looking for a second, I guess.
I'll second it for discussion.
So, is there anything that's in front of us that has been suggested that's time
You should
sensitive?
amend it, didn't you?
I don't think so.
No. Not that I. Of the remaining.
254 is the amount we have left now.
What are we at,
250.
250 for
Five
289.
69, and I think we're down to 254 now.
Yeah, because we were at 284 and then we did 30,000.
Yeah.
It seems like just to avoid like redoing work accidentally, it makes sense to sort of pause on it, get the bids, and see where we are after that.
Well, like I said, the motion is just for tonight.
Yeah. And that's, my thought is that, like, if we say no more tonight, that would be my hope.
The thing I love about it, since we're discussing, is it's actually a cool idea at any point. I mean, I'm gonna vote with this, just to, you know. I mean, it's cool to think that at any point we can just say, so I vote to stop the meeting, because it's kind of, we're ending the ARPA money discussion. And I'm good with that. I just love the thought that I can do that at any point. In the evening of saying, okay, I vote that we're all done for tonight, and let's go home.
Well, I mean, I don't think we're, you still got more to do.
Well, it's just the
Fiscal,
warrants
but-
after this, but yeah. But no, I agree, and I think it's a good idea. We've made some decisions, we can make other decisions another time.
Yep. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to fiscal. What's the pleasure of the board?
Is there a reason that we're updating the payroll authorization again?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Cecil, Madam Vice Chair. At the top, I put a little box with the reason that I'm asking for the update warrant. So in this case, there were 3 police officers who, through a clerical error, were misassigned to the wrong step. And this is to correct their step. And then one of Bill's rec providers is no longer a town employee. She's doing it on an independent contractor basis, so she'll be removed from the list for payroll purposes.
There. Yeah. Oh. Don't look above the line.
I'm sorry.
It took me a moment to
don't-
find it, but I
No,
did
what are you
and actually appreciate the clarity, because
Yeah,
I
that
was
was
going
helpful.
through for a little while thinking, okay, who changed? And finally, I got to the top, and I'm like, he did that for me. So,
Big. Yeah, that. Okay, so I move that we approve the blanket payroll authorization for fiscal year ending 30 June 2024 as revised to reflect corrections to the wage schedules.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? B, September 25th warrant of $216,000, or $16,689.63. Pleasure of the board. I'm going to make a motion to approve it. Have a second?
I'll second it. Fine with me.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, discussion? Sorry.
Yeah, on the top page, a little better than halfway down, 3,500 for Red Apple storage for a.
So we purchased a trailer for the buildings and grounds crew to use, to move lawnmowers and so forth around. It's not to rent a trailer, it's just who we purchased it from. Or it's not to rent a space or anything.
Answer the question.
Answers the question.
Any other discussion?
I would just note, Mr. Chair, that the large amount is the new road demolition. And that's a reimbursable thing, but we pay it first. And the contractor is going to be coming back and paying attention to making sure whether the grass takes on those 3 properties.
Okay.
Because it's late in the season already.
Yep. Yeah.
On page 2, we have web GIS mapping. Is that Susan's maps?
Right, so that's on the website. You can look under resources and maps, and there's this like property map basically where you can search for a property or a property owner or an address, and when you get to it, then you can see the lister card and things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the subscription to that service.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Hope so.
No, I'm just gonna leave you hanging, Brian.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I'll second. Jeez.
Any discussion?
You didn't take my seat.
Oh, Trent, we can't discuss it.
Non-debatable.
Non-debatable.
You're on a roll from the whole meeting, though, Tracy.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.